Have you ever looked at someone and suddenly you felt seen, not admired, not desired, just recognized? Like they mirrored a part of you you hadn't looked at in years, and something in your chest moved before your mind had words for it. That's where it starts. We don't fall in love with a person. We fall in love with what we recognize. Stoics knew this. They didn't chase romantic fireworks. They didn't confuse intensity for depth. They believed love wasn't a reaction. It was a revelation. You see someone, but what shakes you is what you see of yourself in them. Not because they complete you, but because they awaken a part of you that was asleep. That's what the Stoics would call a reminder, a call back to values, to something deeper than attraction. You're not drawn to their beauty. You're drawn to your own alignment through them. You feel love because something in you whispers, I want to be that. I remember that. I've lost that. And so you're pulled, not to own them, but to become more of who you are. That's not obsession. That's insight. But most people don't see it that way. They call it magic. They call it fate. They turn people into saviors. And that's when love turns into dependence. But Stoic love? It's different. It's rooted in awareness. It's light. It doesn't demand. It doesn't beg to be kept. It simply sees and honors what it sees. So if you've ever wondered why someone moved you so deeply, ask yourself, what part of me did they reflect? Because that's the beginning, not of a fantasy, but of a deeper truth you were ready to face. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's how Stoics fall in love. Not blindly, but with eyes that finally open. Here's what most people get wrong. They think falling in love is about the other person, their looks, their timing, their vibe. But a Stoic would tell you, it's never about them, it's about you and what you're ready to feel. Love is a signal, a messenger, not a destination. And when you fall, you're not really falling for them. You're falling through yourself to a place you forgot existed. That's why it feels so intense, so overwhelming. It's not because they're extraordinary, it's because they're unlocking something you buried, something like hope, or softness, or safety. Stoics weren't cold, they weren't emotionless. They just knew better than to confuse connection with possession. They'd say, you love not because they make you feel something, but because they awaken something you already had. That changes everything. You stop trying to hold people too tightly. You stop trying to make it last forever. You stop worshiping the spark, and instead, you watch. You ask, what is this feeling showing me? Why now? Why them? Because sometimes love isn't a union. It's a lesson, a mirror, a shift. Sometimes it lasts, sometimes it doesn't. And both are okay, if you understand the gift. But most people grip. They try to trap what was meant to pass. They confuse a moment of awakening with a lifelong contract. And that's when it starts hurting. Not because it ended, but because we couldn't accept that it served its purpose. Stoics didn't fight impermanence. They respected it. They embraced beauty even in what wouldn't stay. So if you've ever lost someone you loved, maybe you didn't lose. Maybe you just woke up and they were the alarm. Let's keep going. You know what's wild? We spend years trying to protect ourselves, build walls, raise standards, stay safe. And then someone comes along and all that armor melts in a moment, not because they broke it, but because they didn't have to. Because something in you recognized them, not as perfect, but as familiar. Stoics would call this a disturbance, not because it's bad, but because it interrupts your rhythm. It exposes your expectations. It touches your ego. It presses against your plans. And if you're not conscious, you'll call that chemistry. But really, it's confrontation. Because love, real love, forces you to see yourself, what you fear, what you crave, what you still haven't healed. That's why Stoics didn't idolize passion. They respected it, but they never let it blind them. They believed, if it stirs you too much, it probably has something to teach you. And if you're wise, you'll pause before chasing. You'll look within before reaching out. You'll ask, am I drawn to this person, or to what I believe they'll fix in me? Because love becomes dangerous when we use it as medicine for wounds we won't name. But when you love with clarity, when you stay rooted while still opening, then love becomes a teacher, not a trap. Stoics would say, don't run from love, but don't run into it blind. Let it come. Let it shake you. Let it show you where you still need work. And if it's real, you won't need to chase. You'll meet each other at the same height, with the same stillness. That's not fantasy. That's freedom. Let's go deeper. If this reflection feels too real, don't scroll past it. Most people don't think about love. They fall into it. Hard. Fast. Desperate for it to mean something. But a Stoic doesn't fall. They witness. Because love is not a possession. It's not something you own, protect, or demand. It's something you receive. And you either honor it or you lose it. You've seen the difference. One person meets someone and thinks, how can I keep them? Another meets someone and asks, what is this here to teach me? Only one of them walks away with peace, no matter how it ends. That's the Stoic way. They don't confuse connection with destiny. They don't confuse beauty with permanence. They don't confuse the feeling of love with the function of it. Because feelings change. But awareness, that stays. And love to them is a mirror of awareness. It shows you where you're whole. It shows you where you still ache. It shows you how much control you still need. That's why Stoics didn't obsess over being chosen. They focused on choosing themselves again and again. So when love arrived, they wouldn't collapse under it. They'd stand in it. And if it stayed, beautiful. If it didn't, still beautiful. Because love never leaves you empty. It leaves you exposed. And from that place you either build truth or cling to illusion. The choice is always yours. So if you've ever asked, why do I love this person so much? Maybe the real question is, what has this love revealed about me? Because that's the gift, not the person, but the mirror they unknowingly held up. Let's keep going. There's more to see. We say we want love, but often we want control. We don't just want to feel loved. We want to feel safe, secure, certain. We want to know they'll stay, that they'll need us, that they'll never walk away. But Stoics would pause here. They'd ask, why does love need to be permanent to feel real? Because when you need love to last forever, you're no longer loving, you're bargaining. And bargaining isn't connection, it's fear in disguise. A Stoic sees love differently, not as something to grab, but something to honor. They understood that the moment you cling, you distort. You stop seeing the person. You start seeing a version of them that feeds your need. You stop listening. You start expecting. You stop appreciating. You start managing. And slowly, you lose the purity of what drew you in. Because love, real love, is delicate. Not weak, but open, unforced. And you can't hold it by tightening your grip. You hold it by softening your presence. That's why they say, if you love someone, see them fully, then let them be. If they stay, let it be from freedom. If they go, let it be with grace. Not everything beautiful is meant to be permanent. Some things exist to awaken, to shake you, to shape you, then move. But that doesn't make it less sacred. It makes it more. So when love comes into your life, don't rush to name it. Don't rush to define it. Don't rush to keep it. Sit with it and notice what it changes inside you. Because that's the real gift. Not the story you build with someone, but the version of you that love reveals. Let's keep going. You're almost at the root. Sometimes what we call love is just escape, a beautiful distraction, a safe addiction, a feeling strong enough to pull us out of our own silence. We say we're in love, but what we really mean is, I can't feel myself unless I'm with them. I don't know who I am when I'm alone. I finally feel worthy, now that they see me. Stoics would stop us there. They'd say, that's not love, that's dependency dressed as devotion. Because love isn't supposed to fill your emptiness. It's supposed to meet your fullness. But that's hard to hear, because being seen can feel like being saved. And sometimes the person we fall for is just the first one who noticed us when we'd forgotten how to notice ourselves. That's why it feels so powerful, but also why it hurts so much when it ends. Because we weren't holding their hand. We were holding our identity. And when they leave, we don't just lose them, we lose ourselves. That's not their fault. That's our wake-up call. A Stoic doesn't fall in love to escape their life. They fall in love to expand it. They don't chase someone to feel whole. They become whole so that when someone arrives, they can love without fear of losing everything. That's real power. That's real peace. It's not about how fast you fall. It's about how grounded you are when you land. Because when your love depends on their validation, you're not loving, you're negotiating. But when your love flows from your wholeness, you don't collapse if they walk away. You remain clear, present, and still open. That's the Stoic way. Let's keep going. We're almost home. There's a kind of love that doesn't burn. It doesn't crash through your life like lightning. It doesn't drown you in passion or drama. It just sits with you, quiet, calm, clear. And that's the kind of love the Stoics respected, because it doesn't demand, it doesn't beg, it doesn't try to fix or change. It simply accepts, as is, without needing to own anything. That's what real love is. Not a rescue, not a fire, but a mirror with no judgment. You see them. They see you. And in that space, there's no fear, no pretense, no performance, just presence. A Stoic would tell you, if love makes you lose yourself, it's not love. It's longing. If it exhausts you, you're chasing a version of them you made up. But when it grounds you, when it sharpens your awareness, strengthens your discipline, deepens your peace, you're not in love. You're in alignment. That's how you know. It's not chaotic, it's not addictive, it's not unstable, it's steady. It doesn't rush you into confession. It invites you into stillness, It doesn't test your worth. It helps you remember it. And it doesn't need to be proven every day, because you feel it in the silence. That steadiness, it shows you exactly who you are. Because the right love doesn't complete you. It meets you, right where you are, without reaching, without rushing, without shrinking you to fit. That kind of love isn't loud, but it's unforgettable. It's not possession, it's presence. It doesn't fade with absence, because it was never about the body. It was about the energy. It doesn't get weaker with time. It deepens, not because it's rare, but because it's real. And real love, to a Stoic, isn't about emotion. It's about truth. So if you felt that, you haven't just loved, you've evolved. Let's finish strong. You thought love was a search, something you had to chase, something you had to earn. But now, you see it's not out there. It's what's been waiting inside, for the right person to reflect it back. That's why you feel seen, not because they found you, but because they reminded you of something you forgot you carried. That's the secret Stoics knew. You don't fall in love with someone. You fall back into alignment with yourself through the mirror they held. And that mirror, it can come in many forms. A smile in a storm, a glance that softens the edge of your day, a moment that pulls you into stillness when everything else is noise. But the lesson is always the same. If love pulls you closer to who you are, keep walking. If it pulls you away, pause. Because real love never takes you from yourself. It returns you to your center, to your silence, to your strength. That's why a Stoic doesn't ask, how can I make them stay? They ask, what is this love asking me to remember? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's truth. Maybe it's the self-respect you gave up when you started performing. But once you see it, you don't unsee it. That's the gift. And even if they go, you're not empty. You're aware. You're awake. You're whole. Because the real point of love was never to keep someone. It was to meet yourself in a way you never had before. And when you do, you don't lose anything. You gain presence. You gain clarity. You gain peace. And that, more than anything, keeps the heart young and the soul unshakable. You didn't fall in love. You fell into awareness, and that's what stays. The people who try to shake your calm are the ones who never had their own. But here, you've found your ground. So stay, watch this next video, and keep rising silently. Inner Fort, subscribe, stay strong.